Hey, what's up? Jeff Lerner here. Today we're talking about tips for saving money. If you've seen my channel much, you know that I'm all about having an awesome life, but awesome lives have to be paid for, and paying for stuff requires money. So we're going to talk about how to save the money to pay for your awesome life. Okay, so you want to save more money? Let's talk about right now, today, in 2019, how to save money in 2019, okay? I have put together some tips. These are all super simple things that you can implement. You can literally have all of this in place in your life by, let's say, 24 hours. In fact, going into this video, let's start by doing this because, we know how YouTube is. I know how I make videos for it, and I watch videos from it. We'll watch video after video after video, and we browse around, and we sort of almost dilly-dally with our time, and yet there's these nuggets of wisdom in these videos, and hopefully I'm about to drop some for you, and they just pass by us. So let's make a decision together right now before you even watch the rest of this video that if I give you some good stuff, if I give you some tips for saving money in your life, you will not let 24 hours pass without implementing the stuff that I'm about to teach you. And if you do that, if this is the one video that makes you start taking that approach to watching YouTube videos, that, hey, when I actually come across something that teaches me something, I'm going to put a deadline on myself because I know that a goal without a date is just a wish. I'm going to put a deadline on myself to actually do whatever this person's teaching me. This will change your life. This will be the most important video you've ever seen in your life if it changes the way you consume videos in that way. So that said, all right, enough pontificating. Let's talk about tips on saving money in 2019. First of all, the first tip is actually to tip. We all, go out and spend money and pay sales tax and pay tip. So I have developed a habit. It's actually amazing how powerful this was when I used to do it. I don't frankly do it so much anymore because I've done enough of it that I've been able to get critical mass and momentum in some other aspects of my life where it's not all about pinching pennies, but there was a time in my life when this was almost a life-saving discovery that, hey, there's these little extra bits of money that aren't really built into our budget. They're not built into our consciousness. They're sort of afterthought bits of money, but they're actually really significant. And two of them are tax and tip, right? Like we go out and we look at prices and we window shop and we browse and we look at how much stuff is going to cost. But depending on where we're shopping, what state we live in, it actually usually ends up costing anywhere from 6 to 9, 10, heck, if you live out east, there's I think some states that have double-digit sales tax. You could end up paying an extra 6 to 12% on whatever the cost was that's outside your budget. It wasn't really part of your thinking, but you just kind of accept it, right? That's paying tax. And then we go out to eat. We scan the menu for prices. We go, I'll have the grilled cheese and a Coke or whatever. Hopefully you're making better dietary choices than that, but that's content for another video. But whatever the price is, you sort of mentally do the math, and then the bill comes, then there's tax added onto the bill, and there's this expectation that you're going to tip, right? And you should tip. You should always take care of your service people. I'm going to say that as a position that I take strongly in this world. But where does that money come from? It wasn't really part of our thinking. It's not really part of our budget, but we seem to be able to come up with it. And that's the biggest truth about saving money is it's never convenient. It's never in the plan. It's never in the budget, certainly for most people. But if you become really, really committed to it, you'll be able to squeeze it out. Just kind of like tipping. Like, here's the thing. We tip because we're socially conscious and it's awkward or embarrassing not to do it. But our saving of our money, that's this private thing that nobody really sees, nobody really knows about, right? What if we had the same awkwardness and consciousness and social pressure or peer pressure to save money that we do to tip our service staff, right? Well, you got to put that pressure on yourself. And so one of the most effective strategies that I found in my life, especially at a time when saving money was really, really hard, was whenever I paid sales tax or whenever I paid a tip, I paid it again to myself. So literally, if I was, closing out the bill at lunch and I left $5 for the waiter or waitress, I would take another $5 and I would physically shift it into my back pocket. I keep my wallet in my right pocket. I would take the $5 bill and put it into my back pocket. And then later in the day, when I was putting my clothes in the laundry, I would check the pockets and I'd find this $5 bill. I go, oh yeah, that's right. I tipped myself too. It would go into savings. And do that for sales tax as well. I mean, it's one thing to do it for tips. Another thing to do it, 6 to 12% or whatever the number is on every single thing that you buy locally. It'll really, really start to build up. But you can't say I can't afford that because you can afford the tax and tip. A lot of times you say, I have $20 to go out to lunch, and you spend 17, and then you're like, oh, what am I going to do with the tip? Well, you find these little extra bits of money. That's what starts to happen when you train yourself to operate this way. Okay, the next tip for saving money is what I call forced investment transfers. And you hear a lot of people talk about forced savings. Forced savings is these things that are built into a lot of bank account options nowadays, where you open a checking account and the banks are smart, so they go, hey, would you like to open a sister savings account to go with your checking account? And you can even set up an automatic transfer. And they do that because they want to have money. See, on the bank's balance sheet, when they get their valuation as a bank and they present to their investors, there's a difference between money that's held in checking accounts and money that's held in savings or money market accounts, or obviously even like deposit certificates. But just talking savings and money market, banks get a different valuation on that money because that money's less volatile. It's limited by how many transactions you can make each month. It's typically more stable. So banks have an incentive to encourage you to transfer from checking to saving. I don't really like to say forced savings because typically money in a savings account, it just sits there basically collecting dust. And when I say dust, I mean like 0.5% interest or whatever it gets. It doesn't even come close to keeping up with the rate of inflation. So it might as well just be dust. I like forced investments. So this is like open up an E-Trade account, maybe get a whole life policy. I have, some different strategies, maybe put money aside to, save up for a rental property. Like you want to be putting the money towards something that's a little more productive than just a, 0 or 1, or if you're, I don't know, depending on your bank, super lucky nowadays, maybe you have a 2% return savings account or something. I think we can do better, but I still love the principle of automation, right? It's most of what we need to know about life, we can learn from the farm. And there's a principle in farms called storehousing, where they take a certain amount of their crop and they sock it away so that when they have a bad winter or a bad season, they have excess grain or excess product, excess whatever they're farming. And so we can do the same thing. You should always be automatically skimming off the top from your personal economy, your personal money flow into these other vehicles, and essentially forcing yourself to invest money. That's one of the biggest things about wealthy, successful people. They have investments. They're constantly investing. Sadly, most people in this world, they're not consistent active investors. And you need to build that into your life, because if you're always just caught up in the hustle and the go, it's very rare that you're going to stop and say, okay, I'm going to take the next hour of my life and invest. You have to make the investment automatic. Now, next tip for saving money is I have found, I've had some personal really good results with this, actual credit card rewards programs. So I have, for example, there's a Chase card that I have that pays me, I end up getting about 2% back of whatever I spend. I have a Citi card. It's a Citibank issued card where I can take, depending on each transaction, anywhere from 1 to 2% that it pays me back, and it'll actually let me take it back as a cash credit that just gets applied against my balance. I have a Costco card. Actually, I'm sorry, the card that pays off the balance, that's a Capital One card. The Citi card is actually a Costco card. So like last year, I don't even remember what it was. It was like thousands of dollars at the end of the year, or at the beginning of the next year. My wife and I, we get a check in the mail that was for like multiple thousands of dollars in free money at Costco. We basically bought all of our food and stuff for probably 2 months just off of rewards that we had. The Costco Citi card is actually a really, really good card. But whatever. I don't know your personal situation. You might be in other countries. The point is, it's worth it to research credit cards, because using credit card, and a lot of people say don't use credit cards. You should use credit cards. You just should be disciplined about using credit cards. Don't spend more money on credit cards than you can actually afford to pay. But there's actually a lot of value in cycling your money through credit cards, because you tend to get some pretty cool rewards, especially if you have business expenses or anything that are kind of recurring, predictable expenses. This isn't a video all about how to use credit cards, but I will say just make sure when you're paying bills with credit cards that you're not getting charged extra fees for credit card transactions. Sometimes they try to get you that way, and then usually the extra fees do more harm than good in terms of offsetting the rewards. But in general, definitely use credit cards. And we'll talk about this in other videos, but partly because you have to have credit. The people that say don't use credit cards are usually people that have they have abused credit, they've been harmed by abusing credit, and they come out of it and they say, okay, I'm going to discipline myself to never get in that situation again by not using credit cards. But if you're young or you're trying to, you want to do this type of stuff that we're talking about with forced investing, you want to be able to, buy property, you want to be able to access capital for a business, you're going to have credit. And the way you establish credit, again, we'll talk more about this in other videos though, is typically through credit cards, initially at least, as you're getting started in this world. So definitely find good credit cards that have good rewards programs and use them responsibly. The next tip for saving money, this is kind of a life hack in general, but I recommend that you practice something called the 30-day rule. The 30-day rule says basically anytime you want to spend money on something that would be an outlier in terms of your traditional, your basic operating budget, like it's not something you normally spend money on. Like let's say you want to buy a jet ski, or you want to buy, you want to take a trip, or you want to, I don't know, buy a rare baseball card or something you think is cool. You want to buy an Xbox, or you want to just anything that's a one-time, non-normative, non-recurring expenditure in your life. Wait 30 days. Discipline yourself, train yourself to always wait 30 days. It's also like eating. If you want to eat some piece of junk food, wait 30 minutes, right? And then if you still want to eat it, eat it. If you want to buy it, wait 30 days. And if you still want to buy it, buy it. And if you can still afford it, buy it. This is one of the biggest things people discover from implementing this rule, is that they had this money and they were about to spend it on this thing, but they didn't really have the money. They say money burns a hole in your pocket. Like they had this money and they're like, oh my gosh, I have this, I can buy the thing. But if they stop, if they think in terms of 30 days, they go, oh, well, over the next 30 days, I'm going to have to pay for this. I'm going to have to do this. This might happen. I might get need a new transmission in my car or something. In other words, if you're really operating strictly according to budget, just because you had the money doesn't mean you really had the money, because it should have already been allocated to other things. And the 30-day rule is a really good way of building in the discipline that you're only spending money that even when you have it, you truly have it, because you still have it 30 days later and it didn't need to go to something else. And the final tip for saving money is actually, there's two really cool apps that I personally use. I know there's a million apps out there that help you with this, but I'm only qualified to talk about the two that I actually use. One of them is called digit.co, digit.co. And basically what it does is it automatically, you connect it to your checking account and it scans your checking account, and it basically starts to learn your spending patterns. And whenever it sees that you have, potentially a little extra money in your checking account, it'll actually transfer it into what it calls a rainy day fund. And like, honestly, there was a point in my life, I've been using Digit for years. There was a point in my life when I really, really needed to make a specific investment for a business, and the business couldn't support the investment. I actually got this text notification on my phone, because every day you get these updates from Digit about your rainy day fund, and it was like, reply. I think you text savings, and it'll tell you how much you have in your rainy day fund. And I had literally forgotten about it. It had been running for years in the background, and I had forgotten about it, which is beautiful, by the way. It's like finding money under the couch cushion, only it could be thousands and thousands of dollars. And I got this text, and I'm like, oh man, I wonder how much money I have. And I replied, I think I text the word savings, and it sends me back. And I had enough money in there to make the business investment that I wanted to make and not have to pull from somewhere else. It was literally like Santa Claus showed up at my house. So very, very cool. I love it because it happens so far in the background that you can literally forget about it. And that's the key. That it's there's two ways to be disciplined. You either have to you have to live with willpower. You have to constantly be exerting force on yourself and doing the hard thing and making the hard choice and not spending the money that you have, or you can automate it so that you eventually out of sight, out of mind, and the discipline is forced upon you through processes that are removing the money from your flow so you couldn't have spent it in the first place. And obviously, the second form of discipline is much easier because it doesn't require willpower and it doesn't hinge on your ability to consistently make good decisions, which means risk making bad decisions, right? And then the second app that I personally use is called Snowball, and it's basically an automated cryptocurrency investing app. I really like crypto. I've been interested in crypto for a little while, a couple years. I've sort of toyed with it and kept an eye on it, but crypto is a really sophisticated thing, and it's just not something, as a business owner, I haven't had the time to really delve into it. And so again, I like to just sort of put on cruise control some amount of participation in it. And I should probably disclaim and say crypto's not for the faint of heart, and you should never put money, I don't think, into cryptocurrency that you couldn't at least get by or survive without. I do think it has a lot of upside, but I'm not an expert. But I have found the Snowball app to be a really, really cool innovation in my life, because every month it's auto transferring money into, essentially it's like a mutual fund. Just like a mutual fund is a blend of different stocks. I think the one I use is called the Snowbase, I think is the option I chose. It's basically the top 5 listed cryptocurrencies in the Coinbase exchange, and it's just kind of a fund that's a blend of those, and it's automatic crypto investing, and it's done well for me so far. Anyway, so that's a lot of tips on saving money in 2019. I hope that's valuable for you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you're wondering what this channel is about, if this is the first video of mine that you've seen, I cast a pretty wide net. I talk about things that help people have an awesome life. I'm obsessed with having an awesome life. I'm proud to say I have an awesome life. I've worked really freaking hard to build an awesome life, and it's been through a really, intentional and almost fanatical focus on having an awesome life. And I want to share, and I want to talk about all the different things I find that can help people have an awesome life. If you're into that, you think that sounds cool, which you totally should think that sounds cool, by the way. I think if you don't want to have an awesome life, I'm probably scratching my head. But yeah, if you're into that, subscribe to my channel. Make sure you click the bell so you get notified about new videos, and I'll keep bringing you the good stuff. Thanks for your time.